latest Remnant fly today. This is kind of a woolly bugger, I don't know, bass fly slash maybe even steelhead, leech pattern. Started out with the hook on this one, which is like an R75, a Mustad R75 straight-eyed hook. Got the cone out and then just decided to do something simple and easy. It's a two-tone tail on this. Chenille body, Schlappen for a hackle and collar. Straightforward. If you've got some scraps around that meet all these requirements, then very easy to just make a quick woolly bugger, and I guarantee you can take this out and you will catch fish with it. That's the latest Remnant fly, and I'll get started tying. I'm going to start the latest Remnant fly by putting my hook in the vise. I'm going to say this is a Mustad R75, which is straight eye, probably in a smaller size, somewhere around an 8. That's the only thing that I could think of with a streamer hook with a straight eye like this. Now, I am going to debarb the hook. You don't have to do this for the next step, but the next step is to put this black cone on here. So I'm going to take the hook out of the vise. I'm going to slip the point. I'm trying to do this so that you can see this easily. Down into a small hole on that cone, right around the bend. And then back in the vise we go. Ready for our bug. So this, as I mentioned, is kind of turned into a woolly bugger kind of thing. My thread is going to be a UTC Ultra Thread 140 Denier in black. I'm going to start my thread behind the eye of the hook. Black woolly buggers are a staple around here, black and olive. And this one started out all black, but as I started looking through some of my materials and things, got some other ideas in mind. So I am going to add just a little bit of color to this. The color is in the tail and some flash. I've got a purple marabou feather and a black marabou feather. I'm going to tie these in. I'm going to stack these. I'm going to put the purple in and then the black on top of it. So I'm going to collect that feather just like you would a regular marabou, about a hook length long. I'm going to tie that in. You do want to try and tie these in separate. I mean, you certainly could tie them in at the same time. Marabou can be kind of tough if it gets too thick in terms of getting it really secured onto the hook. So I find that you're better off just tie them in separate. Then I'm going to get the black together. I'm going to tie that in same length as the purple, just right up on top of it. I'm going to trim this a little bit longer, and then I'm going to just kind of in an open wrap here, collect all of this down to the hook shank. I don't need to make it nice and smooth. Got some chenille that's going to go over that. But by doing it that way, I get it nice and smooth. I don't get too much bulk down here, and I get a little bit more bulk on the hook shank. Now, I'm going to put in some flash. I got some gold holographic Flashabou. I'm going to put about 3 strands on each side. 3 or 4, maybe 3. Simply because gold works really well in our waters. And woolly buggers are a great fly to add just a little bit of flash to. So I'm going to wrap this in on my side a little bit long. A few wraps backwards right up against that tail to secure that. And then I can take the Flashabou over to the other side and just bind it in right there up against that tail. And trim that just a little bit longer than the tail, so it will have a nice fluttering effect in the water right behind all that marabou. For a hackle, I'm using a Schlappen feather. This is about the best one that I have in my Remnant box for what I want to do. I was hoping to get down into some of the fluff here, but I may not be able to because I got a couple of dead spots in the feather, but we'll see where we go. I'm going to isolate the tip on this one. I'm going to tie that in. I'm going to wrap forward, just binding a whole tip in. Don't have to be neat on this one. Bring it back down. And then I've got some black marabou. I was hoping to find some, or not marabou, chenille. Got a whole bag of remnant pieces of chenille. And I was hoping to find some purple in there, but I didn't have any, so I'm going to go with black. This is just a basic woolly bugger, really, is all it is. I'm going to tie that in, secure all that down. I'm going to bring my thread right up here to behind the cone. Now, like a lot of these rayon chenilles, they kind of get flat and untwisted. So I'm going to twist this up so it gives me a little bit more of a roundish body. Start wrapping that in. I want to wrap this in nice and tight up against each previous wrap. Get that fluff out of there. I've got a nice tight body in here. And I do want to bring that right up to the cone there. Trim away the excess. There's some of that fluff. I'm going to put a drop of super glue right down in here. Hackle is going to get palmered up 5 or 6 wraps. But when I get up to behind that cone, I'm hoping to have enough hackle left to put in at least 2 or 3 turns to make a more pronounced collar. This is, I'm getting into those dead spots. So, but keep in mind, if you have, a feather like this Schlappen feather that does have some dead spots like that, this is a great little fly to use those on, because you can wrap that around in there and it all gets spread around and that dead spot just gets mixed in with it and there's nothing to it. I'm going to try something here. Maybe not. So what I want to try and minimize is I don't want to get a lot of thread wraps back up behind that cone. Now this is all going into the cone, but see, now I'm starting to, I'm going to go ahead and do this. So in order to get that bound in, you'll see I have this little gap right here behind that cone. Well, I'm going to show you something you can do. You can take some marabou or even the fluff from this feather here. You can use that as like a pseudo dubbing. So I peel some of that off, twist it onto my thread, a little bit more. Now I've got enough to just make a nice little dubbed collar right behind there, a couple wraps of thread, and I'm ready for whip finish and head cement. Just helps you kind of fill in that gap a little bit as this is being fished. Now that cone's tight up there, that gap is kind of filled in, doesn't look open. I'm going to put a bunch of head cement down in there. That'll soak down in and really seal that up, make that a nice strong fly. The only other thing you could have done, maybe to strengthen this, is to counter wrap a rib on there, but didn't think of that. So there is the latest Remnant fly, kind of a steelhead maybe, definitely a bass fly. I mean, you could swing that through, you know, a lot of different current seams and fast water and stuff like that, and catch some bass on that. You can bounce that down along the bottom, make a nice little sculpin or Mad Tom imitation bouncing around. So there you go. There's the latest Remnant fly. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for joining me at Devise today. I hope you learned at least a new pattern, if not a new technique, maybe a tip or trick here and there. If you have any questions about this fly or any of the techniques used in constructing this pattern, please leave them in the comments section down below. If you go to the trouble to ask a question, I'll go to the trouble to answer it. If you'd like to help Dressed Irons, please share this video with your friends and anybody you think that might enjoy this pattern. Until next time, remember, it's fly tying. If you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong.